Today we're going to talk about ghosts as it's coming up to Halloween. And in mining, like a lot of old industries, we had lots and lots of stories about ghosts. I came into mining nearly 50 years ago. 50 years ago, a lot of the pits had been there a long time, and a lot of them have got a lot of stories about ghosts. Why do we get ghosts in mining? Well, one of the reasons why is that they became with loads of old superstitions and what have you. The other thing about mining, it's dark, it's very dark. A lot of you kids these days will realise that you've never really experienced darkness. You used to put a light on, you used to go in everywhere where you've got street lights. So when it's dark, right, you can't see. So your eyes become redundant, but you start to hear things better, you start to smell things better, right? You feel things, you feel the cold. So because of that, especially when you're in the dark, things start to run away with you, and especially if you're on your own. At Cap House we have an experience here where when you go underground, one thing that we do, we turn the lights out. When we turn the lights out, you then experience that. Dark means dark, very, very dark. Imagine being a kid of about 5 or 6 years old, going back to 100 years, sat on his own there for 12 hours a day, right? It doesn't take much for to let your mind run away with you then. And that's in those situations, that's when people started to come out with more and more things about ghosts. When you come to Cap House, or when you walk around, right, one of the favourite things that a lot of kids ask us, have we ever seen a ghost? Well, I haven't seen a ghost, but you'll probably find that there's one or two of the other guys, they've probably seen ghosts, or they've got other stories about ghosts. Every pit and every community, right, have their own ghosts. Modern day times, you've got very, very few stories of ghosts. Why? Because everywhere you went underground was lit up, right? Most people didn't work on their own, right? So you didn't have these runaway imaginations or anything like that. But a strange one, going back to when I worked at Charleston, a new part of the mine, very, very well lit up. We had a guy there called Bert. And one night, when I was working down there, I got called out to Bert because he stopped all the coal conveyors. And he stopped the coal conveyors because he'd seen a ghost. Quite strange, it's a new part of the mine, nobody ever been killed there. But when we got out there, he was absolutely 100% convinced he'd seen a little boy walk through a door, in rags and what have you, walk up to him, walk through him, and then walk back out the other door. To make it even more convincing, he actually pointed to some footprints, some perfectly formed footprints in the stone dust. Bert wasn't the most cleverest person who'll be the first to put his hand up, right, and I certainly don't think he was that good of an artist. But it became so famous that we actually got students which came from Nottingham University, what came and actually came to have a look at these footprints. Bert stopped at his post for years after that, and the little boy never bothered him again. At Charleston, where I worked, we had a deputy there called Harold Turfield. Harold's obviously no longer with us. Harold was the president of the Yorkshire Spiritualist Society, and Harold became what we called our resident ghost catcher. If anybody had seen a ghost, he used to go down the mine and he used to go around and he used to speak to the ghost. Not only did he go around the mine, but also he actually went to people's houses who'd reported ghosts. And one time he went to another fellow deputy's house, whose daughter had actually been disturbed quite a few times by seeing a ghost at the bottom of her bed. Harold went there, he went upstairs into a cold, clammy bedroom. First thing he said, "She's here." And apparently the ghost was the great-grandmother of the child, and she'd just come for to have a look to see that the child were all right. "Be gone with you. We'll look after the child now. Go back to where you should be." And apparently that ghost was never seen again. And these were tales what Harold used to tell us many times as we rode in on the panning there. "What a load of rot," some of the men used to shout. Used to give him quite a bit of stick over it. One day they're giving him a bit of stick as he's telling his stories. The train stopped. One man got out. I was looking down, he says, "Anybody going my way?" "Not likely, not likely." So I've seen even the biggest and the bravest of men, right, be frightened of ghosts underground. So, have you ever seen a ghost? If you have seen a ghost, then just leave them in the comments and then we'll pick them up and compare them with our ghosts.